Spotters, welcome to the program. I'm your host, Kyle Lira, and welcome to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I am your host, Kyle Lira, and today on Red Spotlight number 101, we have Solo. We're going to talk about the trailer, and then also we're going to talk about another trailer, which is not so incredible, hint, hint. And then also we have New Mutants, X-Men, Dark Phoenix, and Stan Lee. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here's Red Spotlight Entertainment number 101, Extremely Mutant and Incredibly Solo. So, let's begin. With me on the panel, I have Alexis Soto with me. How are you doing, Alexis? Well, that was definitely a well thought out answer. Okay, so
well, actually, Kyle, now that you asked me, I think I'm actually quite honored to be on this amazing panel of two today for this 101st podcast. I look forward to talking about all of the latest and greatest, maybe not so greatest news when it comes to the world of TV ratings pretty soon. We have a lot of things to do. Also, the Russian investigation is ramping up with Stormy Daniels, so yes, I'm very much looking forward to that side of the conversation.
Don't forget bombings.
Oh, well, they don't matter.
It's Operation Desert Stormy Daniels.
Well, I mean, they said mission accomplished, right? So what's the point in covering that anymore?
Well, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about bigger bombs. Ladies and gentlemen, Lucasfilm dropped the Solo trailer.
I thought you were going to say they dropped the ball on Solo.
Either which, take your pick.
I mean, they obviously dropped the ball on Last Jedi. Oh my god. Right?
My god, what a disgrace to the name of Star Wars.
It's a disgrace. It's a complete disgrace. It's an attack on our country.
That was no mission accomplished. Anyway, can I just go on a rant? I went on a rant on our Ready Player One review, and I'm gonna go on another rant right here.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Did you go on a rant? Because from what all reports are indicating, you cut that out. So.
No, I kept that in the rant. Just a little part which we will not discuss here, but anyway, this I am absolutely not looking forward to Solo at all. Like, no inkling whatsoever. I thought maybe they could do something interesting with the performance that Alden Ehrenreich was going to do. Maybe Phil Lord and Chris Miller would do something at least a little bit different and interesting. That was the only thing that was on the cusp of my entertainment value towards looking forward to this. But really, that all died. Right now, they're still mixing the movie as we speak, which is not good. You're not supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to give like an 11-month waiting period until the premiere. So really, you're really cutting it really thin right now. Also, for those who are looking forward to this and come out saying that this is better than The Last Jedi, you could go kindly fuck yourself. Yep.
This is, I think, the second or third episode in a row in which the host of the podcast has told the audience to go fuck themselves. Just worth pointing that out.
Not the those who say who have reasonable excuses for why they didn't like The Last Jedi. You're in my good graces, but they ruined Luke Skywalker's character. No. Great with words I am today. I'm not looking forward to this at all. It's looking shittier and shittier by the day, by the minute, and if I was not obligated to watch this movie, I would just skip it and wait until December of 2019 for episode 9. That's it. Alexis, what did you?
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Why do you say you feel obligated to watch this movie? Why do you think obligated to watch it? Because of the podcast or because you're a Star Wars fan?
Because of the podcast.
So you're saying if you're really going to tell me you that lives and breathes Star Wars and gets excited for literally almost anything of that franchise. You're telling me that if it wasn't for this show, you wouldn't go and see this movie at all.
Yep. That is exactly what I'm telling you. Because there's no inkling of desire that I have. I'm not compelled to watch this movie. A lot of people said that this trailer was fun.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't feel fun. It felt more of the same that I got. Well,
let me ask you this question since you brought up the notion of desire. Do you desire this film to fail on some level? Not because you want a bad movie, but perhaps you want some ends to be met. Is there a part of you that wishes this movie that to bomb, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, why is that?
A lot of reasons. Primarily the reason being that if people start clamoring all over this movie, that means The Last Jedi has lost any tact of reasonable depth with the Star Wars fandom. And
it was never there.
It was, and people will act like it was never there and never spoken of, which, you know what, that deeply sickens me.
Well, yeah, it's because for a while, our own Peter Martinez was the first one to call it. In fact, he's already called it ever since this recent trailer dropped, that a lot of disaffected fans that take pleasure in dismantling Episode 8 are going to look to this film, if it's anything what we're expecting it to be, as what they feel is a real fans' Star Wars movie. Which I think in and of itself is a dangerous notion, and one that I feel exposes how misguided they really are. If they're going to look at something like this as something that is successful, because look, from the very beginning, all of us here have been saying that this is something that really is not going to expand this franchise, this mythology, this story any further. In fact, it's kind of just retreading based on characters we've already seen, we already know.
And we already know the lore. We know what this movie is going to be front to back. There's one element that really pisses me off about Solo, and I know that it's going to go this way, but we'll get to that later.
What I also just wanted to say about it is that, just to be clear, because there have been some accusations flying around that you and I were on board with this movie from the very beginning. And I think nothing can be further from the truth. I think, in particular in my regard, there were statements that were made that expressed some level of interest in what Phil Lord and Chris Miller would bring to the table for this kind of movie, considering the kinds of movies they've made in the past, considering how successful all of their films have been. It was interesting. After that happened, and everything else that has come to light since has really, it's just been, a collapse, a bridge collapsing into itself and then sinking into the harbor slowly but surely. I will say, though, this particular trailer I felt was probably the best yet, and what I see in this trailer is a movie that isn't a disaster, which I think in some level is some kind of a success. But I think at the bare minimum we will get a movie that is entertaining and fun, and really that's all this is offering. So I guess the kindest thing I could say about this trailer is it was good. I'm not excited, but I guess I'll watch it.
When we first started this whole Solo thing, when it was announced, the directors got me at least slightly intrigued,
Hmm.
but I was entering the movie cautiously
But on
optimistic.
no level were we like on board with the notion of this movie. I think both of you and I were like on the same mind that this shouldn't exist because it doesn't need to exist.
Yeah.
Nobody was
The,
asking for this except maybe Lawrence Kasdan.
the only thing that's really like I'll find thorough enjoyment in Solo is Childish Gambino as Lando, and
Hmm.
that's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much the word on the street is that hey, get Childish Lando looks great, and I know Childish Gambino is amazing and all that stuff, but that shouldn't be like the only motivation to see this movie. Also, I want to point out something that I predict is going to happen in the movie. You heard it here first, guys. My predictions on Solo, a Star Wars story. All right, we know that Emilia Clarke is going to be in the movie, right? She's going to play Kira, and hold on a second, guys.
Yes, what was your grand prediction?
Okay, so we all know that Emilia Clarke is going to be in the movie.
Yeah, she
Um,
dies. We all know that. What's next?
no, I don't only think that either she's going to die or in another case even betray Han Solo, but I have a feeling that they're going to have a romantic connection in this movie. Um, she's going to betray him or die, and she is going to be uh, the catalyst for Han Solo's man pain and go like, oh, I'm gonna be grumpy now. I can't, open up to anybody, and oh, I fall in love with this very, with this short brunette named Leia, because she reminds me of the person I was once in love with.
And that is why you don't do a movie like this. Because it creates these kinds of unnecessary problems.
And I mean, am I wrong to think this, or is
Yeah.
am I overthinking it, or because that's the way it's feeling to me how it's gonna end up?
I feel it's just another one of those unintended consequences of this type of movie. Inevitably, like this kind of prequel story is going to cause issues and problems and even more that affect continuity. So I mean, it's not something that my mind ever went to, but people are gonna ask those questions from now until the end of time.
Yeah, like oh, he fell in love with Leia because Leia reminded him of Kira. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. I wish Carrie was still alive so she could shut that shit down. No questions. Um, yeah. What did you? What made? Okay, everybody keeps telling me it looks fun. I don't see it. Do you
It's
care
the
to?
action set pieces. Look, here's what I liked about it, and why I'm getting a sense of fun, even though I'm not all the way on board to it. Let's start with Alden Ehrenreich. He's not Harrison Ford. It wasn't going to be. In my mind, I've already just stopped comparing it to that. But based on on the lines of dialogue and the quips or the comebacks or the whatever or the attitude there, I think he has the essence of the attitude, and I think the things that they're having him say in the trailer are things that Solo would say. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I've whatever. It is what it is. And then as far as I mean, I like what I'm seeing from Woody Harrelson. I like what I'm seeing from what's his name, Childish Gambino, and Emilia Clarke, and the droid. And just a lot of crazy, wacky stuff here, and it really has this like this heist, you know, high stakes action to it, interesting set pieces, set locations. I like the cinematography, strangely enough, in some of the scenes, how they're shot. I think it's beautifully lit. Um, and it's just some space action. I mean, it looks how it sounds. Maybe it'll be generic, perhaps it's just run of the mill, but it looks fun, and people like to see some fun action stuff blow up in space.
In space. Um,
I mean, some people have said this movie is like Star Wars' version of a western in space, and I'm like, okay, whatever, but well, it could be if they played their cards right. They have the right set of characters, but we'll see.
mhm.
We'll have to see.
um, I got that sense a little bit, but it's just I don't know. I could
I
go.
have to say though,
Mhm.
maybe I think we may run into a situation in which a lot of people like us are so unenthusiastic about this, and expectations may be so low, so low, um,
Didn't
that when you walk out of that theater, there may be more,
positive
yeah,
stuff to say.
there may be more positive feelings in general of this movie walking out of it. There may be some genuine surprises in terms of how delightful it was. That could definitely happen. And when you mix that crowd with the people already in their minds having the agenda to prop that movie up and destroy the last one, then you're going to get into an environment in which almost instantaneously this movie is,
Going to be labeled as better than The Last Jedi.
oh, it's going to be critically acclaimed probably by comparison. From
To quote the great Ultron, I can't physically throw up in my mouth. Ah, my God. What a world we live in.
But I'm saying that could happen to us too. We could walk into the movie and we could walk out like enjoying it. Who knows?
But it was it the intent? I think Kathleen Kennedy was like, oh, let's create all these problems and all that shit. Let's make
No,
it
no,
look
of
like
course that wasn't the intent. It happened the way that it happened. But either way, when you have a disaffected audience that's going to go see it regardless, if they're so unenthusiastic, a lot of them aren't going to see it, but most will see it because it has the name of it. But if it ends up being just a little bit better than how low the expectations are set, they're going to like it. It doesn't take all that much. And you have to mix this in with reports that we've been hearing that this movie is headed toward a $150 million opening weekend, which I think that already exceeds what Rogue One did. Which, I mean, that also has to bring up the conversation of that movie. And I think the further removed we are from that movie, the more I feel, anyway, the more I don't care about that movie and the more I don't care about any of the characters. For me, personally speaking, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's still a good movie, but I think there's a lot of problems. Mainly for me, the main problem is connecting with any of the people who are in front of my eyes, aside from the established veterans. And the third act was amazing. There was great action stuff, but it was a pieced together mess that ended up working, I think, on the surface level, but after a while, yes, the story is important. Yes, the events are important to that universe, but like, it's not
but
that
have
much.
but after a while you start to see the seams.
Yes,
And
but even now, the people who loved it back then are still praising it now. You see what I'm talking about? It doesn't take that much for people to love these kinds of movies. It's almost like the DC effect, if you know, if you will. And even though I'm not going to compare it to that mess, that horde of a mess, um, but Solo could very well end up being in the top 5 or top 4 ranked movies based by fans, just if it does the bare minimum. And you know that's just the reality.
This is vomit inducing.
Yeah.
This is vomit inducing, and this is the freaking
But it's also just
world we
really
live in.
interesting, is it? I mean, it's. I think it's really hard to believe that it's tracking at 150, considering all of the negativity surrounding it. And I need to check that one more time because this just sounds way too hard to believe.
It's batshit insane. 150. This is the part in every other successful podcast where there's somebody googling further information to further the conversation, while another person right here is talking to distract from the fact that somebody is googling the aforementioned conversation. So this is great. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it says here right
Okay.
now, Box Office Pro is currently estimating it to be 150 opening weekend, which would be around the neighborhood of Rogue One's 155.
Now you're just talking nasty.
So, yeah, the writing's kind of on the wall when you think about it.
Star Wars is dead. Star Wars is dead. I'm declaring it. Time of death. 4/14/2018 at 3:47 p.m. Yeah. DOA.
Well, I think people are kind of. We should keep, be a bit wary of this movie because despite it having the opening that it might have, this is not going to have legs like every other movie because this is May, it's not December. And after, it's going to be affected by one way or another because of Infinity War and Deadpool and what may come afterwards. So we'll have to see what happens.
Final thoughts?
That were my final thoughts.
Okay. Solo. No. Solo is a no-lo for me. Anyway, Incredibles 2. Let's just talk about Incredibles 2 for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It just, you know what it's gonna be already. It's so ironic. It's kind of like Solo. You know exactly what it's gonna be. It's like the same old standard Pixar formula. Oh, they're gonna have a little bit of hardships, but then they're gonna come back and they're gonna learn the value of friendship, family, love. Pick your stereotypical theme, and that's gonna be Incredibles 2. I'm not necessarily looking forward to this. I told you in our fantasy fair that I'm not really looking forward to Incredibles 2, and my hype for the movie has significantly declined. And this trailer did. I mean, as a trailer, it's good, but in terms of like getting me excited for the movie, which a trailer is supposed to do, it just didn't work for me. Alexis, what did you think of the Incredibles 2 trailer?
It was pretty depressing.
How so?
On almost every single level. It's just more of the same manufactured crap and established stuff that we've known of. It's no surprise. All of the things that are happening, you already know what you're going to get with this. And it just is following the mold of what came before. Derivative, repetitive, underwhelming, unnecessary, cash grab, mandated by Disney. yada yada yada. We are witnessing the collapse of Pixar Animation Studios as we know it. With the departure of John Lasseter and Darla K. Anderson, it's in free fall. It's a mess. Enjoy Pixar Fest while it lasts. It says, as I have trademarked it, it is the last gasp of a dying breath.
I love that. I love that. Forget flawless bullshit at its finest. It's the last gasp of a dying breath. I love it. I love it.
It's horrible though. It's horrible because
It's
this is a
absolutely
once
horrid.
this is disgusting. Not this because this is a institution, if you will, that is just in free fall because, and it also just kind of upsets me because almost all of the sequels they've taken ideas that are kind of remedial. If you're going to do it, it kind of defeats the purpose because if you're going to do a sequel, you need to come up with an interesting enough story. And I feel that Peter came up with one that was much more interesting in like 45 seconds.
Like Peter had the lovely idea of the kids have a time jump after the first movie. Have the kids go off to college. Violet living on her own already, and working on that in this whole new different, almost kind of dealing with the empty nest syndrome, in which there's a short that's coming out before that that looks immediately better than this movie, that deals with that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. Did anything at least get you interested in seeing the movie in any shape or form?
No,
No?
no.
And also, I like to point out that it was really disgusting that they really tried to bring back the whole "where's my super suit" kind of thing at the little notch at the end. They pretty much they pretty much went to like a focus group and say, what did people like about Incredibles 1? Oh, the super suit scene. Oh, we got to put that in the trailer. What else did they like? Edna Mode. We got to put some of her isms in the...
It's the exact same thing.
It is the exact same movie, except it's just with Mrs. Incredible at the forefront instead of Mr. Incredible. And that... You put it before... you put it in a great way yesterday when we were talking, and you said that that Pixar's formula is getting old, boring, and tiresome at this point.
It's getting offensive, if you ask me, because they're so much better than this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. If it was like Illuminations, it would be like, okay, it looks like shit, but that's what Illumination is. This is Pixar. Pixar's had so many great movies, and I don't know. It just doesn't look good. Just doesn't look good. I'm done. I'm done with this. Are you?
I've already moved on with my life.
Same. So, Alexis, are you ready to get Mutant?
No.
Well, too bad. According to Entertainment Weekly, X-Men Dark Phoenix has flown the coop. The next post-apocalypse installment of 20th Century Fox's superhero saga has been bumped from its planned November release date to February 14th, 2019. The studio made the announcement late Monday night, along with a few other shuffles. The New Mutants has been moved to February 22nd, 2019 to April 2nd, 2019. A whole couple of months afterwards. with the intent that the New Mutants will be more aiming for a more horror elemental factor. So, with that being said, uh, Dark Phoenix, I'm not looking forward to necessarily, but freaking New Mutants, I am. Um, which it kind of scares me because we had another movie with this kind of uh, temperament already with reshoots and everything that's surrounding the New Mutants, and that was Suicide Squad, where they're trying to change the thing because it tested well in audiences. I don't. It just doesn't look promising as it once was because they. I mean, it could be good. It could be good because they're refocusing it to make it look like, make it have the vibe of what the trailer did. But we had Suicide Squad that did that with the hiring in people who did the trailers to recut the movie to make it feel like the trailer. Um, Alexis, are you at all concerned about any of this going on or going forward?
I think the more that has come out, the more cause I feel there is to be concerned about both projects. I am just by based on what we've discussed earlier, I am more curious about the New Mutants than I am about Dark Phoenix because I think the concept of a R-rated horror of a horror movie, R-rated, a Marvel horror movie is interesting. Um, but it is concerning how far away it's being pushed back now, and it's very concerning that they took that they had no idea that, oh, maybe we should make this a horror movie until some trailer company put it together. That's very troubling. And Dark Phoenix, I think the same thing is we've heard almost nothing about that movie, and you almost have to wonder why that is being pushed back too. It's just a mess, really. And at this point, after Deadpool 2, there's really nothing really um, that promising. It just doesn't look good in general.
Do you think they've given up because of the whole Disney buyout?
No, because I mean, if they've really given up, then why would they bother with reshoots, right? I mean, just if they're bad, and release them, and we'll see. I mean, who knows? I don't think it was. I don't think they're giving up personally. I feel they're trying to make these movies successful, but could there be people on the lot that are thinking, well, is coming into an inevitable conclusion, so fuck it. Maybe. I mean, literally, yeah.
I love that. So fuck it. Maybe. I love it. I love it. It's
Yeah.
just zero fucks given today. Um, uh, I New Mutants. I'm kind of worried about, but yeah. And the news keeps on getting depressing. Are you ready for more depressing news?
Well, before I die, for sure.
All right. So before you die, Stanley. Let's talk Stanley. So apparently a lot of shit is happening to him, but according to Stan Lee, not really. According to TMZ, um, apparently he's involved in horrible merchandise selling and horrible money embezzlements. First off, let's talk about some of his abuse scandals that's going on. Um, a A February 13th document obtained by the Hollywood Reporter begins with some background explaining that Lee and his late wife had arranged a trust for their daughter because she had trouble supporting herself and often overspent. It is not uncommon for JC to charge in any given month to 20,000 to 40,000 on credit cards, sometimes more. The document states it goes on to describe how, when he and his daughter disagree, which is often, she typically yells and screams at me and cries hysterically if I do not capitulate.
Capitulate.
Capitulate. Thank you. Lee explains that JC will, from time to time, demand charges to her trust, including the transfer of properties into her name. He has resisted such charges, he states, because they would greatly increase the likelihood of her greatest fear that after my death she will become homeless and destitute. The declaration that explicates how three men with bad mentions, Gerardo, Jerry, Olivares, which we'll get into later, Kia Morgan, and JC's attorney Kirk Schneck, improperly influenced his daughter, a woman with very few adult friends. That's just half the story. That's just half the story, but we'll start there. Stanley shouldn't be going through this, especially at his age right now. I don't think. Well, nobody should be going through this. This is horrible, and the way that it looks like he's being taken advantage of. What do you think, Alexis?
Well, if this is true, it is horrible, and that shouldn't be happening at all. It's depressing on almost every level. But again, the video that was released of him speaking, it's clearly him. It's him talking, threatening to sue all of the publications if they don't retract, suggesting this isn't true. I think we're kind of in this environment where we have no idea what's true and what's not. We'll have to see how it plays out. But in either case, it's horrible that Stanley has to endure these string of, bad headlines at 95 years old. I mean, the man does not need this much stress.
Also, considering. Oh, by the way, Alexis, I could hear myself a little bit. It just. Hello. Okay, we're good. Also, to top it off, he just recently suffered through pneumonia.
Yeah.
Which at 95, that could be a death sentence for you. He's also a recent widower. Widower, and it's just so much bad shit is happening within this past year. I mean, poor guy. Also, another thing that's going on. Do you want to get the little creep factor? Publicist Jerry Olivares, who has been closely involved in the former Marvel chairman of Charman's affairs, is accused of draining $1.4 million from Lee's accounts, buying a West Hollywood condo with Lee's funds, and setting up a fake charity to sell comic books stamped with Lee's blood. Lee is 95 and, according to the suit, became vulnerable to financial swindles following the death of his wife last July. Hands of Respect, the purported charity, held itself out as promoting racial harmony. According to its website, blood was drawn from Lee with his full support and at his urging, and then used stamp DNA ink on comic books as legacy and for his fans. According to the suit, however, Lee did not consent to the idea. Lee never approved of the use of his blood on merchandising items or any other use, the lawsuit states. Naturally, this compounded Lee's grief and angst and caused him tremendous emotional distress. No shit. That's just creepy, don't you think? Selling his blood.
Mm-hmm. Sounds pretty creepy to me. I don't know where else you want me to go with that. I mean, what else can I say? Like,
uh, it's poor Stanley. Go seek help. Everything is true, a lot of people have come out to lend a helping hand to you, Mr. Lee. Kevin Smith for one, and James Gunn is also another one. So yeah. Uh, wow. Yeah, so that was today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this week's episode. Sorry for the downer, but there's nothing but downers today. Hopefully, in next week's podcast, there will be an upper as we rank all of the
all the
Marvel
TV
Cinematic
shows of this past TV season, in particular the superhero TV shows.
where we rank all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies leading up to the evidential Infinity War. And in order to listen to that, check out podcast.com and iTunes.com. And if you want to see our bright and shining faces, check out YouTube and check out our vlogs, The After Darks. And also check out our podcasts in video form as well on YouTube. So, final thoughts for the day, Mr. Soto?
You know what you gotta do. You watch S.H.I.E.L.D. on that network on that time. And I'll see you next week.
Bye.